I got a confession for you.
All right, man.
You ready for the confession?
Let me pause this because I'm about to call and tell him you don't love me anymore. All right. So you ready?
I'm ready when you are.
We're going live in 3, 2, 1. This week on the return of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. I ain't really got a program. The entertainment world as we know it is in tatters. Charles Kirkland is going to join me for our first show in 3 months. We are Zooming the big show. Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go. No music, no breaks. Me and Charles just kicking it. What's going on, Charles Kirkland?
Normally, this is the part of the show where I would have edited in the sound effects, you know, the music that goes in there. You know, with Shane put down this wonderful track for our show. And, well, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is.
All right, man. So let's just kick it off by saying, as I said at the top, it's the first show in 3 months. Our last studio show was episode 401. We did a 401 overtime. So in case you go to Blog Talk or any of the other streaming services, including DC Radio, and see what the show was, we actually had Winston Duke on as a guest for show 401. And we had Tressa Smallwood on in overtime for 401. I will bring the music down because I was getting in my militant mode watching the James Baldwin documentary, I Am Not Your Negro, directed by Raoul Peck, which is based on the 1979 unfinished manuscript that James Baldwin was working on called Remember This House, which told the story of his relationship with 3 men whose names started with an M: Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. So I just thought it was fitting after such a week of upheaval and change that we would take a look back to see what that movement looked like as we are currently living in this one. Charles, talk to me about your experiences since the reveal of the video of the late George Floyd and all the monumental change that has occurred since that time to this.
Well, you know, the really strange thing was that that was Memorial Day weekend. And I was busy working, and I come home, and first thing I saw was Central Park Karen. And I was like, oh, you're kidding me? That's crazy, right? Then the next thing they showed me was George Floyd's video. And I was floored. I said, this is not real. And they assured me it was real. And so, you know, it's just been especially in the church, there's been a lot of people who are just outraged that this can go on. I've had people tell me, oh, now I understand what Black Lives Matter is about. I understand where white privilege comes from, because we had a guy that killed some people in Connecticut and got in a car, drove all the way down to Hagerstown, Maryland, and was arrested, not killed, but arrested. He murdered people in Connecticut and came and got arrested, of course, you know. So it's been a really interesting couple of weeks dealing with this issue. You talked about I Am Not Your Negro. Kevin Sampson gave a list of 25 films that to Jason Fraley for WTOP about what the Black experience is, and things that can lead us to discussion about where how we can come together on what it is to be a Black man or a Black person in the United States of America. I Am Not Your Negro, I think, was like 8 on the list, and with Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing being number 1. But a lot of great movies on that list, and I suggest if you get a chance to check it out.
Well, it's interesting because this morning, before we did this call, I was on another call invited by a member of the Washington, D.C. Area Film Critics Association who works at the Voice of America, Penelope. And she wanted to talk about, she had me put together a list of films, and I picked 6. And of course, I had Do the Right Thing on my list. I had Nothing But a Man, because she wanted to talk about social justice and the experience of being Black in America. From 1964, I thought that movie was amazing. I Am Not Your Negro made my list. The Black Panthers, the Vanguard of the Revolution from 2015 made my list as well. And of course, you know, two films, or actually one film I talked about, Do the Right Thing already, or mentioned that one. But the other one was Fruitvale Station. That was a film that talked about the killing of Oscar Grant out in Oakland, which was Ryan Coogler's feature film. So I'm trying to remember, and I don't have to remember because I have the list right here. I don't know why I'm trying to do all of this by memory. Oh, The Hate U Give was the other film of the six that I picked. Okay. And then some of the other ones that I had that were honorable mention were a couple from Ava DuVernay, Selma and the 13th, the Dr. King documentary about the last years of his life, King in the Wilderness, If Beale Street Could Talk, LA 92, the Central Park 5, and Let the Fire Burn, the story of the mayor of Philadelphia authorizing the bombing of the Move homes, which burnt down an entire block in Philadelphia in 1985. So, you know, as a rule, I spend a lot of time, man, having conversations with my inner circle about the dynamics, the political dynamics, the social and cultural dynamics. But that's not for here, man. When we here, keeping it real about that entertainment, man. So thank you, though, for checking in and letting me know kind of what you've been seeing. So here we go, man. We're in June. We missed all of March, all of April, all of May. As a rule, this would be the time that we would be in the middle of the summer movie season, which this year is not happening. And when it does come back, will look vastly different than how it looks right now. After 90 days away, Charles, and having read everything you've read about AMC potentially going under, we've lost the Uptown Theater here in DC. Movies have been pushed back a year, 6 months. We have no vaccine. Warner Brothers is hell-bent on releasing Christopher Nolan's film Tenet in theaters, as well as DC is trying to release Wonder Woman 1984 in the theaters. I personally had a conversation with some folks at Allied who explained to me that, you know, studios have been floating plans that, you know, if the theater holds, you know, 300 people, they will let 30 critics in for a screening. Each critic will have to sit 12 seats apart. You'll probably watch a movie, The Mask on. Give me some feedback, man, on how our world has changed as it relates to the screening situation. And I'm not even going to speculate or ask you rhetorically when we can get back to movies, because nobody knows. When can we get back and watch films again? But your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think when Christopher Nolan's movie comes into the theaters, I will be one of the 30 people sitting in the theater to watch it. I'm of the impression that, yes, I've done a lot of streaming. I've watched a lot of things on my television, on my computer. But there's still something that's different about being in a movie theater and seeing a movie live. I know I'm in the minority, and my wife thinks I'm crazy for saying that, and I know someone sitting across from me is thinking the same thing.
You are.
But
you are.
I don't, you know, it's all arbitrary. You know, you 12 seats, 10 seats, 2 seats. There's going to be some. So I don't think I need to really worry about it, because I'm going to be in the minority of people who are actually going to go to see a movie in a movie theater. When they say 30, I'm thinking maybe 15 or less. Yeah, it may even be like when we went to see Emma, where you and I were the only people in the theater. It's going to be sparse for quite some time. I don't know why Nolan is hell bent on putting this out in the theaters, and not going or saving it for another time, or, you know, putting it on video. But if he's going to do it, I'll go see it. Now, I'm not saying that for Wonder Woman, but I am saying that about Christopher Nolan's movie. So,
well, I think a part of the film experience is not just necessarily going to the movie, man, but it is the interaction with your colleagues. It's sitting next to people. It's feeling people's energy or their sorrow, or or if their joy if they see something they really like. So yeah, sitting in a movie theater, sitting 10, 12 seats apart, you could actually do it, but I mean, you can do that at home. So to me, that doesn't feel like going to the movies. Going to the movies is kind of an experience, man. And I think you haven't been to the movies in such a long time. You have forgotten that, because I honestly believe, and you and I talked about this. I don't think my last screening might have either been at the very beginning of March. I know you and I were together at a movie in late February, watching a movie. It's been a long time, bro, being in a theater, man. And being in a theater, you've watched movies like, what was the Soderbergh movie? Was it Contagion? When you had the scene in there where the guy's in the movie and he coughs and you see like the germ float through the air. Man, that's a real thing. And, I've talked to some critics who I'm not going to name, who basically shared with me simply, I'm not dying for a movie. It's a movie. I can wait until y'all get y'all stuff back together. So personally, I would be surprised if we go back and watch any movies before the end of this year in 2020. I don't think we will have another film screening until 2021 that people will feel confident enough to go to.
I think the thing that everybody is waiting for will be the antibody, not the antibody, the
vaccine.
Vaccine, there you go.
Right.
Everybody's waiting on a vaccine. So, our fearless leader says the end of the year. Some other people say into the next year. So, I mean, that's really when everything will really get back to the new normal, instead of this normal. But I don't disagree. For all his bluster, I really don't think that Tenet is going to release this movie. I really don't think that DC is going to release the movie, because it's like financial suicide to release a movie when people can't go see it. And that's one of the things that's happening now is they've released Trolls World Tour was released on video and made over $100 million. And so the new normal is maybe we don't need to have movie theaters anymore, and that's where AMC has gotten into this problem where if you're not going to release, if you're going to release it on video at the same time as a theater, we're not going to show your movies. So now Universal is in this uproar with not just AMC but with the NATO, the North American Treaty Theater owners, and that they can't show a movie at the same time in the theaters as it's being released. But that may be the new normal. I mean, that may be where we're going from here on out. And it could be a death knell. We already seen, like I said, the Uptown's gone. AMC is in financial peril. Who else is out there that it may just be the end of theaters the way we know them?
Well, it's funny because, before we came on, I told you I was watching I Am Not Your Negro, and I saw that movement from the 1960s, and I guess from the time that Raoul Peck made this film, Ferguson was the hot button issue of the day, and you saw a lot of. Matter of fact, I put it to you this way: it was very reminiscent watching the scenes out of Ferguson and watching the scenes that are going on right now, and how you had the public apologies by a lot of officials about the police inactions and the police brutality and things of that nature. And I am a student of history. I always look at history to inform us. And right now we're living or having threads of 3 different historical time periods all simultaneously going on right now. So we got a little 1918, well, a lot of 1918 with the pandemic, which harkens back to the Spanish flu of that period. We also have some 1929 going on because of the economic downturn with almost 40 million people out of work. And then we got a little 1968 sprinkled in there with, President Law and Order. So we are dealing with something that, by virtue that you could study history for any of these points. We know that in 1918, that pandemic then lasted from January of 1918 to December of 1920, which gave us the Harlem Renaissance and the Roaring 20s and Prohibition and all that. So we know that the country bounced back. We also know that after the Great Depression, which kicked off in 1929 and lasted through FDR, about 5 years, with FDR coming in with the New Deal and things of that nature in the mid-30s, that the country was able to semi-bounce back. And then 1968, when Richard Nixon ran for president and dethroned Lyndon B. Johnson, which of course gave us Watergate a little later on, but that's a different show. So the country has been here before, Charles. We've gone through trials and tribulations. We've gone through some hard moments. Hell, if you go back 100 and, I don't know, I'm not doing the math, 150 some odd years, we were at the Civil War here in this country, man. So we will survive. It's just a matter of what it looks like on the other side, with what that evolution it looks like, or this new, I hate to use the phrase a new world order, but when it comes back, it's gonna look a lot different than it looks now, and we've got to be able to adapt. So us being on the call right now, and this Zoom call is a part of us adapting. Last time I checked, our studios at DC Radio were supposed to be available on the 8th of June, but I think they pushed it back again. And kudos to DC man Muriel Bowser, who wanted to send a signal to the federal government of the president, who wanted to, let me do my imitation real quick, who wanted to tear gas, flash bomb, and what's the other thing that they did to him to clear the way for him to go? What are you doing? Oh, I'm sorry. I had somebody in the tear gas them, and had helicopters overhead just so he could have a photo op. So what was Muriel Bowser's response? I don't know. I'm mayor of the city. Just go out there and spray paint that whole road. Black Lives Matter, and we will rename it Black Lives Matter Boulevard Plaza. I think it's Plaza. So I'm gonna go down to Black Lives Matter's Plaza a little later on, because I just want to lay in the street and take some pictures. Click, click, click.
You gotta have somebody up on the camera from up on top of the buildings, take a picture of you on Black Lives Matter Way.
Somebody wrote on social media, is that permanent? It's spray painted in the middle of the street. Pretty much.
Anything that they mark the roads with, the lines on the road, so it's there. It's going to be there.
Watch this. Pretty much. Oh, man. So, all right, we got about 12 minutes to go. All right, Charles. So I'm going to shift the conversation. We're going to talk about the new reality in film, which is our streaming. And after 3 months of watching streaming movies, I'm just going to keep it as real with you as possible, because that's what we do here. There was a movie, which I'm not going to give you the title of, but somebody contacted me from Netflix. So that's kind of well, actually, it wasn't from Netflix. It was a non-Netflix movie. So I basically have blown it. I'm talking about The High Note. Anyway, the rep called me up and said, what you think about The High Note? I said, and I quote, it's the perfect pandemic movie. If this movie was released in a theater during the summer movie season, nobody would have saw that movie. But by virtue that we are, as a captive audience, it's the perfect pandemic movie. But Charles, man, over the course of the time that we've been home, and we talk about movies that cater or feature African Americans or people who are Black, man, Black AF, because I'm not going to say what it is. Black AF. Well,
that's the name of the show.
Self-made. What's her name? The hair woman.
Madam Tussauds.
Madam C.J. Walker story. Thank you. Uncorked. Lady. What was it called? The East. Lovebirds. Lovebirds.
Yeah. Lovebirds.
I'm trying to think what else has been out. I mean, what was that movie?
The Photograph.
Coffee and Kareem.
The
Oh,
Photograph came out in
that Photograph came out of theaters. I'm talking about all the stuff we've seen on streaming services.
Yeah.
What was the one all from Joe Robert Cole? All day and the night, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna keep it real and tell you, man, a lot of these movies have been bad. Coffee and Kareem possibly is the worst. That Taraji P. Henson was in that movie. And I thought about you. I said, boy, you better be lucky we not doing Keeping It Real with FilmGordon right now. Because if I had to review that one, woo!
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, anytime you cast Ed Helms and Taraji P. Henson as love interest, already there's conflict. It doesn't even make any sense. They act like they didn't want to be in a room together. The little boy just got on my nerves. He needed somebody to give him a swift spanking in the rear. If you old school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The movie was not good at all. Lovebirds, similar concerns about that one. The chemistry in that one just didn't even make a lot of sense to me. I'm like, yikes. You've heard my thoughts about Tracy Ellis Ross and Kelvin Harrison Jr.
Now wait a minute.
I thought it was great.
I was going to say, Kelvin Harrison did a great job in that movie.
He was great in that film. He's the best thing in it. Madam C.J. Walker's story, which I gave a B to until I understood that the real story was Annie Malone. I was incensed. I went back and looked, and it did. I guess it was in the title, self-made, inspired about the life of Madam C.J. Walker. Inspired. Yeah, so that would be like them making a Charles Kirkland movie, and it was inspired, and Charles would be, I don't know, an astronaut who became president of the United States. I'm not saying that's not something you can aspire to be or something that you could have done, but that's not who you are, brother. That's not who you are. So, no. Go ahead, Charles, what have been your highlights and lowlights? I told you my highlight. I believe Uncorked, honestly, might be the best film that has come out of that lot. And it's not great, but it's probably, from start to finish, probably the best one of the ones we've mentioned so far.
I find myself at times like these looking to things that have come in the past because look, we talked gloriously about how last year was a wonderful year for Black cinema. I don't know if it's the pandemic. I don't know if whatever it is, but if these, like you said, if these movies came out in the theaters, it would have been a bad year for Black cinema. This is not a good rebound year for us. I had the similar things about High Note. Technically, even the movie was terrible. But again, Kelvin Harrison was wonderful in the movie. I continue to be impressed by the work that he does. Everything he does seems to be gold.
Well, I have two thoughts, man, because, you scared me when you first started off. You said, when I find myself, I thought you were going to go Beatles on me. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother May. So that was number one. Number two, you said, man, I go back to last year. We had such high hopes. I was thinking SOS. High hopes. We had high hopes, man. And look, you did have high hopes because there was a slate of movies that were coming out. If they would have come out in the theaters, we wouldn't be having these conversations. Now, you got to remember that streaming services are there to be supportive of the studio or the experience in a movie theater. It's a support. It is not supposed to be your primary, and we're finding out now. And Spike Lee's The Five Bloods, we'll be back next weekend to talk about that one. I have high hopes, and I find it hard to believe that Spike Lee will let me down. But every time I think that Spike won't let me down, I think of movies like, what was the one with Clark Peters that I think is the absolute worst Spike Lee movie? Oh, Red Hook Summer.
Yeah.
Or I think about the one that came after that, that he tried to remake, Thomasine and Bushrod, the one about the guy who was a vampire. That wasn't good. And then, I know Kevin Wilmot is going to hear this. I was not a fan of Chirac. That movie didn't work for me either. Look, at least I told the co-writer, who's my friend, like, yo, bro,
I thought it was ambitious and it had an interesting premise to it, but
So yes, Spike Lee could let me down. Now the Five Bloods trailer looks great. Spike is going to come back after Black Klansman. I mean, there are reasons to be optimistic. It is Spike Lee.
Tim Gordon.
I'm just saying, it's Spike Lee.
As part of the Film Society, we used to have a show we do twice a year called Coming Attractions. And we would watch trailers, and we would talk about, oh, this is a great trailer. This is a great trailer. And everybody loves trailers for movies that were terrible. So you can get a great trailer and have a terrible movie.
Speaking of great trailers, have you seen the trailer yet for the upcoming July Netflix release, The Old Guard, with Charlize Theron and Kiki Lane from Beale Street Can Talk?
No.
Great trailer. They gave out Oscars for trailers. That's a great trailer. I find it hard to believe that movie's going to be that good, because what I believe is going to happen is they put all the best stuff. I have a name for this phenomenon. I call it, there was a movie that came out in 1970s when I was a kid. I never forget it, called Good Guys Wear Black. And it would star Chuck Norris, and there was a famous scene where a car was coming and Chuck jumped up, threw a kick through the car window, and everybody was like, woo! That was the best scene in the movie. That movie was terrible. It was terrible.
There's an even worse phenomenon nowadays, is where they show you things in a trailer that don't happen in the movie either.
Don't even happen in the movie. I've seen that. I'm like, I went back and went, where was that at in the movie? You're right. It doesn't even make the movie. That's even worse. That's like bait and switch.
Exactly.
Then there's a phenomenon with that, which I call the Dark Knight. I never forget, I think I told you the story on air, that I was so hyped before the Dark Knight was released that I was on the phone with the Warner Brothers rep 3 or 4 months before the movie came out. And she was like, oh man, you've never seen anything. So she's hyping it up. Warner Brothers released 12 trailers for the Dark Knight. 12. And I go back to this day and watch them, and they just chopped up scenes, which all of them made the movie, but it told you nothing about the movie. And I thought Warner Brothers in that campaign for The Dark Knight, that was the best series or usage of trailers, and more films need to be that way, instead of so many times you and I go to the movies and it's like, oh, don't got to go watch that movie. Thanks. It was a good, thank you, trailer for revealing their whole movie.
That in order for them to do that, it had to be a really good movie for them to take that many scenes out of it to make you say, I don't know what the movie is, but
no. I'm not talking about that, Charles. I'm talking about the phenomenon when they show you so much, you feel like you watched the movie. You're like, dude, thanks. You put everything in. Here's some spoilers. Here's everything in your trailer.
My buddy Mike Bryant, when he watches, sometimes they release the second, third trailer for a movie. He stops at the first one. He says, after I've seen the first one, I don't need to know anything else, because they're going to end up telling me too much, and it's going to spoil the whole movie for me.
All right, Chuck. So we got about 90 seconds left, man. This is kind of fun, man. We get together. You can sit in your library with Pepe Le Pew over your head. Now, the thing that's interesting, if you don't look too close, it looks like it's a sword. I thought it was like an Islamic thing you had happening until you pulled your head back and I could see Pepe. So that was pretty good, man. So you got any thoughts, man, before we close out the first episode of The Big Show in 90 days?
No, I don't have anything. This has been really fun. Let's see if we can keep this up.
Man, I think we should be doing about 4 or 5 of these a week, but that's just me.
Yeah. The bottom half of the screen will be empty.
That's cold, man. That's cold. All right, bro. Well, as we tell people every week, man, who used to listen to us in the olden days, I would say see something good at the movies, man, but I don't know. You got to find some old school. Yeah, we should just recommend movies to people, man, from now on. But yeah, Charles, man, it's been a pleasure, brother. Until next time, man, let's keep it going, man. I mean, I don't know when we going back to the old guard. So we might as well just keep it going, brother.
We're keeping it real, keeping it live.
All right, sir. You take care, man. Enjoy your weekend.
You too.
All right. That was good, brother. That's all we needed right there. And it hit the mark at 30. At 30, boom, did it.
That's your phone ring. That's the ring I have programmed for Esteban whenever he calls. It's called Pick Up the Phone.
Oh, that's funny, man. No, man. Oh, Travis has sent me something that they put it. Travis called me up talking about, man, we should bring back Addicted to Film. So Travis, even in the pandemic, is trying to shank you. They're like, yo, man, you ain't doing nothing with Charles, man, me and you.
Okay.
Yeah, man. So, we do, man. But no, man, I'm happy, bro, that, you have found favor, man. Because I ain't trying to work that hard. I'm like, dude, I get my money. I get in, I get out. I do my couple of jobs a day, sometimes 3. And then I'm like.
I tell you, after I had that $1,100 week, I was like, man, I got to do something else. This is way too much work. So I really chilled out the last couple weeks. I haven't been working as much, but I got called today. I thought it was crazy. I told you, Harris Teeter was empty after I stocked it full yesterday. I've never seen it. I thought somebody just failed to do the display on Tuesday. I came in there on yesterday. I was like, this is crazy. What's going on? And I morning. You know how when you stock up a store, you go in there the next day, you're thinking, oh, it's going to be easy. I just hit this, hit that, and I'm out.
Right.
I had to do the whole thing over again. It blew my mind.
Well, it's funny. I came into Weiss on Friday, and, I had to do Cloverly after. And I come into Weiss, man. I got in there, and the store was literally done. I could have literally came in, took some pictures, and walked out. I said, let me make it look good. So I stayed in there. I think I stayed in there 45 minutes, man. I grabbed a shopping cart. That's how stocked it was, and was like, oh, they need 4 bottles of 4 liters of Coke and 4 12-packs. And I said, just for its and giggles, let me just grab a 6-pack. So that's the kind of stuff I was doing, bro. I said, let me go up here and fill up their coolers. So I took my time because I knew they didn't need anything. So I just wanted to make it look good. And 45 minutes later, I was walking out the store like this. So, what happens, man. I don't get bent out of shape, man. I think the thing is that I'm discovering that I need to start probably doing some Pilates or something, because it's not like I'm sore, but man, I don't know about you. I have a Garmin watch, man. I'm counting. I did 17,000 steps yesterday. So I'm averaging between 12 to 13,000 steps. I'm down to 200. I think earlier this week I weighed myself. I was down to 207. My pants don't fit anymore.
Oh, that's the worst part. I went to the bathroom and my pants is falling off of me. I'm like,
man, they talking about exercise. You're getting tons of exercise. You're doing lunges and bends and lifting. I'm like, man. So that's why I'm like, dude, I came here last night and Heather was like, your mouth stopped working. I had nothing to say. I was so tired when I walked in here last night. What, babe?
Oh, yeah, you were tired.
Man, I was worn out, bro. So, and when I get to Friday night, man, that's why I'm like Saturday morning, I got to get up and do this men's call, and I don't want to necessarily do that, but I was like, so from now on, man, I think we should at least be doing 30. If I'd have known it was that simple, we could have been doing 30, man, a couple of months ago. But just you did tell me to do that, babe. Heather is lady. I told you so. On everything. I
don't know why you don't listen to Heather.
I don't know why I listen to Heather either. Hold on, say let me choose this virtual background.
I didn't say that. I said why don't you listen to Heather?
Oh, what about this background, man?
Oh Lord.
Yeah, I actually took this picture, man. No, seriously, I took this picture. This is St. Lucia. So the reason why I didn't use it is because I couldn't get just the picture in the background. But if I'd have rocked that, I'd have been like, hey. Charles, why you over there hating, man? Why you hating?
Yeah. For a while, people were hating on my skunk, Pepe Le Pew back here. My wife uses the same area to do her Zoom conferences with her children. So Pepe had to come down because the children were like, "Ooh!" and so it had to come down. But other than,
I'm rocking the. She like.
Oh, now all of a sudden the picture looks good.
Oh, the picture looks good now? That's cold. You cold dude, man. All right, so yeah, we got it. So I'm going to post this online. The return of the big show. Charles and I kick it. We talk about Tenet and all the streaming movies we can't stand.
You know, you never did say this is keeping it real at the beginning. So, you know, you said welcome to the big show, all that stuff. So hopefully.
Oh, man. All right, what I can do is I could edit this show. I mean, I could delete this show and we just do it again. What? All we did was have a conversation, so we can't have another conversation?
We can say that for the next show. You know, just like, you know, we've always been perfecting keeping it real. We can keep on perfecting this process.
Okay, Charles doesn't want to have a further conversation with me, so.
I didn't say that.
Charles said, man, I don't want to talk to you no more. You low money job earner. Man, why don't you order some shirts, man? I'm telling you, I got two short sleeves and a long sleeve. The long sleeve is gray and the two short sleeves green.
Actually, my shirt connection is coming through for me. I'm supposed to be picking up shirts next week.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, I've been rocking shirts, man. So, you know, and the thing is that the ones that you order from them, they run a little small. So it worked out perfectly because I'm getting small. So I'm like, who knew?
Right.
All right, Charles. So you can ready to go be a star, man. This is going up online. So we're just gonna put it up on the site. See what we get.
Can you send me a copy, or should I just put a link on DC Film Life to the show?
I tell you what, man. I can do both. I can send you a copy, and I'm going to put a link up on my page and on FilmGordon and a couple other places. So, but I actually probably need to get some people to do one of these because we've got the Black Reel Awards for television voting starts on Monday. So I need to probably get Cordell on here and get one. So let me get off with you and put this up, and then get Cordell up and get the next one going on.
All right. Next time you want to do it, just give me a little heads up, and we'll do it.
All right, bro. We'll do.
If you want to do multiple times a week, just let me know.
Yes, sir. Take care, fool.
All right. See you later.
Bye.